of cold in the city, and a lot of people are becoming casualties to some kind of a throat infection or the other. But the market's not caught a cold this morning. There is a decent amount of green that we have got from the Dow Jones itself, and that's for the second day running, despite the GDP numbers there looking not very good. Clearly now the US markets are only looking at labor data and inflation data, because that's what Yellen has asked them to look at. So today's non-farm payrolls will be more important. The markets are therefore kind of flat going into that very important number. I guess all global markets will look out for the non-farm payroll number, and the cues we're getting from Asia, well, at least they are not red. It's not a gung-ho green that we're getting from Asia. Mixed picture, but at least nothing to rue about. From the global cues, we start on an okay note.
Yes, we do. Lata, morning. Our colleagues may not be in good health, but the market is in good health for sure. And yesterday we saw a very strong close to the July series, the Nifty reclaiming that 8,400 mark. And even if you look at the data, domestic funds are now buying into this market quite well in the last couple of days. So we did see DIIs buy about 500 crores in the cash market yesterday. And even the selling pressure from FIIs has reduced. So yes, there is a sell figure of 170 crores in the cash market, 200 crores in the index futures, but the pressure from FIIs has reduced. So we start off the August series on a positive note. Also, Lata, yesterday the pocket to talk about clearly was PSU banks, but it was purely short covering. I was looking at the data, there was hardly any delivery-based buying in the PSU banking lot. Could it be because of the government's plan to recapitalize, and there's that meeting later today, or is there something else that the market is looking at now?
No, actually, I find that short covering a little worrisome for the market. Well, first, on the market itself, for 2 days in a row, both Wednesday and Thursday, the markets have ended at the high point of the day, which could perhaps indicate that there is a bit of positivity for the bulls. But we must remember that these are, quadruple witching days, a day when the contract ends, so one doesn't know how much one can take home. But that certainly gave the advantage to the bulls. But if you look at the put-call ratio, it's still at 0.8. So if there isn't so much courage to write puts, then that's a bearish sign. The FI positioning is looking bearish. For me, what is looking most bearish, or rather scary, not necessarily bearish, is the way the markets ended yesterday and exactly the sectors you are talking about. The best gainer in the BSE or the Nifty yesterday, the CNX Realty Index. And next to it was the PSU Bank Index, Power Index. These are the indices that have ended on a high note yesterday. We know the trouble with these indices and PSU banks. Okay, since that was your question, the commitment that Jayant Sinha gave yesterday in an interview with Sapna, our correspondent, is that yes, banks are going to get capitalized and that they're also going to look at NPLs, which is something the markets don't like if it is put under the carpet. He said that markets want us to be honest about NPLs, and so the recap package will not just be capital, it will be a whole governance change that the public sector banks will give. But that said, every bank that announced numbers yesterday, I mean, it's a disgusting set. Look at the gross NPLs of Bank of Baroda, one of the best run banks. That stands at 4.3%. I mean, 4.3 is serious for one of the best run banks in the pack. As well, slippages. It's not as if the slippages have fallen much. It is almost 1,700 crores compared to 1,800 crores the previous quarter. And my hunch is, why is it 1,600 and not 2,600? Because, some 4,000 crores has been refinanced. Now, okay, refinanced, as we now know, even Hindalco is asking for refinance, and that's not something that will ever go into NPL anytime soon. But of the 5,000 crores, how many will be the Hindalcos? And how many will be the Bhushans and the steel companies, which without a bit of fuel would have anyway gone down the drain? Therefore, the numbers are bad. I mean, I could go on. IDFC, this was actually waiting to happen. How can an infrastructure lender not report NPLs? And there it comes, 126% rise in NPLs quarter on quarter. The numbers, 1.5%. They always had a sub 1% NPL. And they promised several times in several quarters that we will stick to an under 1% NPL. There come the skeletons out of the closet. Oriental Bank of Commerce, 6%. I mean, it's 5.85. gross NPLs. That's almost 6%. Look at the slippages. This is still covering up the refinanced assets. I could go on with Vijaya, with State Bank of Mysore. These are very scary numbers. What business does the PSU Bank index have to be,
up 10%
be
on
up
individual stocks? Yeah.
Individual stocks 10%. Yes, the stock that was up were PNB and BOB, and they have something going for them. They are probably going to get some very good managers at the top. PNB is likely to get Usha Ananthasubramanian, who could be Arundhati in the making. I mean, she's a damn good banker. When she was at Bank of Baroda, of course, went to Mahila Bank, and I thought that was such a waste of talent. It's very good that the Mahila Bank is getting closed down and talent is being directed where it should be at PNB. BOB is getting possibly 2 private sector guys. Jayakumar could be the managing director, and Ravi Venkatesan could be the chairman. That was the initial list. So, you could cheer up. I always cheer when there are good people at the top. Yes. But I would think this is way too early. The announcements have not come. We don't know what help we are going to get in terms of a steel package, yes, which is the crying need of the hour. Steel companies, some of them just have to die, otherwise the others won't survive. We have a long way to go. Yes. Going by the numbers, I'm a little worried that Realty Index and PSU Bank indexes are leading the markets high today. So if the markets are evenly poised between bullish and bearish, my weight would be with the bearish. This is not really a very great way for the markets to gain.
Oh yes, in fact there was, like I said, there was hardly any delivery-based buying. It was purely short covering and trading that you saw in PSU banks. Also, the list of mid-caps that have announced their numbers overnight have not been pretty at all. So if you look at, earnings like Gati, there was Exide, exactly, there was Hindustan Construction, there was HSIL. These are all stocks. Of course, many of them have now started to underperform, but these are companies that have all delivered weak numbers.
And so they all ran up. I mean, how much have we run up the logistics companies?
Yes.
So when the delivery is not there, there has to be a reality check.
Yes. However, in the start of the August series, I did interact with a couple of traders, and they indicated that the good part is that the base for this market has now moved up. In July series, we were talking about 8,000 getting breached, etc. But now the base has moved up to about 8,200 to 8,300. But on the upside, that 87, 8,800 still proves to be a resistance. So we're still in this 600-point band, and nothing for now seems to suggest that we'll break out above that band.
But today the markets in the morning trade will also be cautious. Look at what we're putting up in the earnings corner. ICICI Bank,
and
L&T. These are all economy bellwethers. Yes. So the markets, I don't think, will want to bid up ahead of such huge proxies for the economy. One will watch the numbers, and perhaps the markets will take a very big cue from there as to, at least our more efficient players being able to, pull themselves up by the bootstraps. So I think the end of the day, much will depend upon the kind of numbers that are coming. Markets should open, probably the green, but in a subdued note. But that subdued note will be because people will want to watch how ICICI and L&T are performing. And then there is the non-farm payroll numbers. So I don't expect the markets to perform too much in the first half. Maybe, the numbers, the markets will be data dependent, if you please.
All right. Well, it is Friday, so we've got many curveballs through the course of the week. But finally, it's the end of the week. So here's what you'll get to see on the show this morning. Our market master for today is Nilesh Shah, Managing Director of Kotak Mahindra Mutual Fund. So he'll join in to detail his views on the markets and on the earnings corner. Talking about earnings, Praveen Sood, the Group CFO of HCC, R.K. Garg, the Acting MD and CEO of Petronet LNG, and Ashwini Kumar, the Chairman and Managing Director of Dena Bank, will be with us. And PSU banks have been on a tear in the last couple of days. We understand that the Finance Ministry will seek the Parliament's approval on recapitalizing PSU banks today. Joining in to take stock of the situation will be Suresh Patel, the Executive Director of Oriental Bank of Commerce. All right, all that and more lined up through the course of the next 2.5 hours. But first up, more highlights of the US markets. As you can see, it was a day of consolidation, no great movement. But to be fair, the US markets have had a fairly decent run in the last couple of days.